Warning! This video contains mention of World War II, Nazis, animal testing, extreme violence, crude language, stereotypes, gore, long content warning lists, alcohol use, and domestic/child violence. You have been warned. Hello, friends! Welcome to the podcast, where we talk about Call of Duty, World of War.
Oh, is that what we're talking about today?
And
Yes,
other video games.
and other video games, just not on this episode.
Generally, just anything, everything related to video games, history, and how they have affected the world as a whole.
Essentially, we're the type of podcast your older brother would listen to.
We're the type of podcast where you and your friends sit in your living room, talk about the same shit, but you don't have the balls to say it in public, but we do, and we put it on the internet.
Yes, we did.
I don't have balls, though I'm a woman.
You have the metaphorical balls of an
They're
arm.
on your chest.
This is true. There's about 30 pounds of them on my chest.
I was about to say, you have balls
Anyways.
in a box.
A box.
Anyways, sit down and buckle in your ass straps, kids, because this is the story of how a video game development team slacking off turned into the greatest storyline and top-selling game mode of all time. Of course,
At least in recent years.
I'm talking about Nazi zombies.
Just like when Uncle would talk about hookers.
Just
That's
like when
my
Uncle would talk about hookers.
That's a COD Zombies reference, and neither of you know it.
I do know it. I played COD Zombies.
I know
Fair
it
enough.
because of you.
So, it's 2008. We're fresh off the heels of COD 4 and its watermelon knifing goodness.
The
Like the
housing
watermelon.
economy just trashed.
Housing economy trashed. Obama was in office, and we're all sitting here saying, "Knife the watermelon."
No, I don't think Obama. I think we were still in Bush.
No, that was Obama.
Oh,
Obama
that
got
was
put in
Obama.
2008.
Okay,
That was the first year.
we had
Bush
Bama.
came up. Yeah, Bush was in his last year in 07. Thanks, Al Qaeda. Fucking douchebag.
Anyways, we're talking a few wars back in this video. COD 4 is. Yeah. COD 4 is doing fantastic. It's the best shooter on the market. And now,
Vote.
Activision wants Treyarch to go back to World War II again after having
Back to the roots of Call of Duty.
like 3 games in a row of just World War II. And they're rushing them and putting them under pressure too. So nothing's looking good for Treyarch.
It may be killing some Russians.
Yeah, that too. That happens. But
I was making a pun and no one appreciated
No Russian.
it.
that's the next game.
Yeah, that's Modern Warfare 2 from 09.
Anyways.
That game was the reason that there's a content warning in COD now.
Yeah. So, your team's under hard pressure. You gotta pound out this next game and make it the best Call of Duty there's been in like less than a year. So what does half of your campaign team do? They start slacking. No. They start slacking the fuck off. They finish the campaign early, and rather than put the rest of their resources towards helping the multiplayer team, they decide to repurpose one of the campaign missions that ended up actually getting scrapped, where you were playing as one of the German gunners on D-Day mowing down the U.S. troops.
Is that what that mission was?
Yeah, they scrapped it.
That's interesting.
But one of the quirks from that people noticed was during a mortar strike, the NPCs would like drop their guns and just start shaking their heads really creepily, and everyone thought they kind of looked like zombies. So the campaign team got bored and slacked off, and instead made zombies on company time with no permission from anybody, and it remained a secret for like 3 weeks.
Ever.
This
No.
is like this is gonna show how much I fall into rabbit holes on YouTube. But when brownies became super popular, someone engraved like
Popular.
print when it like blew up, like what
When the
2008,
community blew up
2000. Yeah,
to be like in the public zeitgeist, whether it be
But-
for fun or ridicule.
yeah. But what I'm getting at is someone fucking engraved Princess Twilight on a motherboard that got sent to like an FBI facility. So there's a motherboard in an FBI
Facility.
Thank you. It has Twilight Sparkle engraved on it. And it wasn't known about until like 3 years afterwards when the person that did it finally said something.
Sounds about right. So these goobers make this wave mode. They ripped a map from the multiplayer and campaign. It was called Hard Landing, I believe, was the campaign mission. And
I don't remember. All I know is
it
it
was
was on in Normandy.
yeah, it was the multiplayer map Airfield, where there's this itty bitty small bunker in the middle of the map. So they walled off the entire bunker, made that a survival area, and started going to town. Eventually, one of the music producers caught wind of this. His name was Kevin Sherwood, and if you've played Zombies, I'm sure you recognize that name. He ended up becoming the music director for Zombies.
Oh yeah, Kevin
But
Sherwood.
he played it and loved it and encouraged the team to start spreading it, even though they had no permission to. So more and more of the office start playing this mode, and eventually the higher ups get wind of it. And they're gonna fire these guys, because they're wasting company time and money. But like one of the CEOs of Activision catches wind, and he's a bit of a whimsical guy. So he says, alright, I'll play the game. If I like it, we'll keep it. And he plays it and almost immediately wants to play again. He gets to like round 4 and he's like, okay, but I want to get further. And everyone in the office ends up with like this little corkboard of how far can you get in the mode. So
So they made a company game out of it, and that's what made it stick.
yes. So obviously the beginning map, Nocturne Toten, which is just Night of the Undead.
Yeah.
It has like no features. There's no perks. There's no voice lines. It's
No,
just
it's
guns,
just get it, go.
bare bones survival.
It's basically the idea of here's a gun, soldier, kill them fuckers.
And that's all the mode was ever going to be. And the director of Treyarch said, we'll put it in the game, but we're going to lock it behind the campaign, and it will get absolutely no advertising. It'll be like a secret endgame Easter egg. If you
If you
beat the
beat the
entire
game,
campaign on hard, you unlock
you get
Nazi
this.
zombies. Needless to say, everyone found this like it was some like hoax creepypasta, and
But
it
the
blew
hoax was
up.
true.
Yeah,
Let's talk about hoaxes for a second. It's like a magazine way back in the '90s, Electronic Gaming Monthly. They would always do like their April Fools issue.
mm-hmm.
Like if you complete Resident Evil 2, both scenarios with all S ranks with nothing but a knife for each character, you can unlock Akuma as a playable character.
Right.
It just busts down doors, doesn't need keys, uses a fireball as a primary attack, or fighting oh crap, what was it?
Luigi and Mario 64.
That one actually was proven true. Like that was originally supposed to be the case.
Yeah.
Like you were supposed to be able to get all the stars and then unlock Luigi.
Okay, then Waluigi and Mario 64 DS. That one was not true.
That one was not true, but people have since modded it, so it doesn't matter. But Street Fighter 2, I believe, or is Super Street Fighter 2. If you were to get all the way up to M Bison, completing the same criteria to fight Akuma, and then ended up fighting Akuma to a draw. There's a certain name, and I can't remember what the name is now. This character would fly off screen, obliterate Akuma, and then you'd have to fight him. And then, of course, the infamous Nude Raider code,
Yeah.
which none of them worked. Like,
So,
video game hoaxes have been around forever, dude.
yeah. Now, right before the release of World at War, COD 4 did like the very first DLC, like purchasable DLC, where they added 4
Was it?
multiplayer maps for
Yeah,
$5.99 or something like that.
yeah,
It was the first downloadable content in a COD game.
yeah. It was the biggest. Well, unless you count other expansions, but those were like separate discs.
Yeah, but they were never like online downloadable extra
Right,
stuff
it
for
wasn't like
multiplayer.
something huge. It wasn't like something really big. It was like minor things. Like here's an extra 30 missions. Like look at older FPS games. They would have expansion packs. like Blood Cryptic Passage, and we've talked about Redneck Rampage.
Yeah.
I
But
don't think Doom had them.
no.
No, because they were
So
all just bundled into one spot.
so World at War launches, and everyone ends up finding Nazi zombies, and the community takes off with it. Everyone's racing. It becomes like the world record runs of how far can I get in this stupid little bunker, and everyone wants more. Like people. The numbers from multiplayer to zombies, like there's no competition. Multiplayer is smoking, or zombies is smoking multiplayer by a landslide.
Oh yeah, I remember those days. Like nobody was on MP. Everybody was just on zombies, and
Yep.
the people that were trying to grind up through MP just were like god awful or god tier amazing. There was no in between. Those are the days before skill based matchmaking, where it was a wasteland.
Yep. So
I love it.
about a third of the way through the life cycle of World at War, Treyarch decides to do their own hand at DLC. And originally they were going to do 4 multiplayer maps, like COD 4 did.
Mm,
But the community, like, screamed for more zombies, more zombies. And so they made Verrückt. Now, Verrückt was also based on a multiplayer map, just called Asylum. And unlike Noct, that was bare bones, we got introduced to characters that talked. We got 4, for the time, unnamed Marines who just had insert badass voice line. We got
I think,
perks.
if I'm not mistaken, with the introduction of Farouk, there was the Marines did have names.
They get them later, but
Yeah.
at the time they're just random Marines saying random things. We get perks. You know, the original 4: more health, double the fire rate, faster reloads, and faster reviving of your buddies. And
No auto revive yet.
yeah, no, that didn't come till the next game, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But
Right now, we're just
alongside all of this, they started sprinkling in a story. And it wasn't much, but there were cryptic messages left on the walls. Like, one of them is 1938-2406. And if you take that as a date, as June 24th, 1938, a meteorite landed over Pennsylvania and split into fragments that were never recovered and found, but were documented to have landed. No one touched them. Mysteriously overnight, they disappeared. Or, there's a couple Bible verses and actually an Illuminati cipher, which, if you didn't know, you can look up online. There's an entire Illuminati cipher language.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, but like
Is it like how the Zodiac Killer did it?
something like that.
Yeah,
But there's like a Bible verse that's like, "Death has climbed in our windows and taken us off the streets," and something like that. Blah blah blah. I don't know. It's zombies. But this map, unlike Noct, the fucking zombies are horrifying. They're fast. They're faster than you if you're carrying a light machine gun.
That's always fun.
They're aggressive, and there's power, like a power switch you have to get to. It splits up the players in the beginning. This map was revolutionary. It was difficult as fuck.
The way it sounds, it brought about like a survival horror-esque idea to Call of Duty.
Yes. And when we get to the storyline, like, this game gets pretty fucked up. But World at War was genuinely scary. You could walk over to the crematorium bins, like if, and you would hear screams of the dead. There's a dentist chair that the drills would spill up, or spin up.
Oh, yeah.
You could hear a baby crying near a furnace. Like, it was creepy.
Like, they had atmosphere, they had the actual danger with the zombies, making them faster, making them stronger with each round.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it, and I remember it kicking my ass in those early days.
Yep. And then...
But then again, I was like 8, 9.
Right. They then did something unimaginable and released the second DLC. COD 4 only did one, but World at War decided it was going to do multiple. And so it released 4 more multiplayer maps in Shino Numa. Now, if Verrückt gave us innovation, Shinonuma gave us characters, where we were introduced to the original 4 characters we all know and love, which is the angry American Tank Dempsey, the drunk Russian Nikolai Belinsky, the honorable samurai warrior Takeo Masaki, and the crazy Nazi scientist Dr. Edward Richthofen.
Talk to Edward Richthofen. Yes.
He's come to touch your bits, yeah. And we get more
I can
story.
fit you inside of a gumball machine and get a piece of you for a quarter.
We get
Who
more.
has a quarter? Dempsey.
We get more Easter eggs. There's a radio with actual genuine storyline in the spawn room that gives out the coordinates to the real life Groom Lake, which is Area 51, and the coordinates to the Tunguska event, which was the largest meteorite impact on the planet, other than like that we have seen in human lifetime.
Jesus Christ. I was wondering why my microphone was picking up a sound. I know what it is now. My phone was vibrating right underneath it and shaking the table.
Oh.
Can we talk about the voice actors for the 4 real quick?
Yes. So
I would absolutely enjoy this. Let me pull them up real quick because I already know 2 of them right off the top of my head. Absolute legends. And if you don't already know who they are, I'll tell you right now. Edward Richthofen, that's Nolan North. That's Nathan Drake. That is any extra from any game. You could like between Richthofen and Dempsey, they're voice actors. You could throw a stone in any game store and hit at least 5 of the games that their VAs have been in.
mm-hmm.
But let me go to the disease known as Steve Bloom. I absolutely adore Steve Bloom, but his voice is everywhere.
Mm-hmm. He's Wolverine, he's Dempsey,
Yes.
he's Spike from Cowboy Bebop.
Yes, I was gonna say Cowboy Bebop, my favorite one. Just fucking see you later, space cowboy.
Yep, he was Heat Blast, Vilgax, and
Oh yeah, he's been in so much stuff.
he's
Like
been
he's
in
been in Star
everything.
Wars. He was in Lilo and Stitch.
Mm-hmm.
That one I did not know. I know he's in Transformers because he is the voice of Starscream.
Yep. And then
And he's only 62 years old. He's got over like I wonder. I'm gonna look at his IMDb page real quick. If I'm not mistaken, he has over fucking. He has 851 actor credits,
yeah.
2 scripted continuity department credits, 47 additional crew credits. Oh my god, he's got almost 1,000 just voice credits on file.
Then after Steve Bloom, we got Fred Tedescore, who plays
Oh
Nikolai.
yes, Fred. He's in everything too.
He was the Hulk and Beast
Yes.
in Marvel, and also Solomon Grundy.
Oh,
Again,
was he?
huh?
He was Solomon Grundy?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll be damned.
Again, he was also on Ben 10.
Yes,
My
Fred
childhood's
scores in a
shining
lot
through.
of things.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, give me just 1 second. Let me see here. He was in Kung Fu Panda, Hulk versus Hulk and Agents of Smash, Hit Monkey, Ultimate Avengers, and Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. These are all super recent. He played Pacha. I want to say it's in a different version of any kind of Emperor's New Groove type shows.
He's Soldier 76.
Yeah. He was also Shao Kahn in Mortal Kombat. I'm not sure which one. I'm going to assume Mortal Kombat 12.
Oh, we totally forgot. Steve Bloom is also the Toonami robot.
Oh yeah, he's Tom.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
Next week on Toonami.
We got Takeo, who was voiced by Tom Kane.
Tom Kane.
He's retired now, but he was in a lot of the Star Wars games and films.
Here, let me look. He's played Yoda, Professor Utonium from Powerpuff Girls, Monkey Fist from I think it's Kim Possible, Admiral Akbar, Mr. Harriman from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. That's one I did not know.
So
Darwin from the Wild Thornberries, and him.
Yeah. So you take all these voices from your childhood,
Yes,
and
all of these four legends basically.
they're swearing and killing Nazis. And if it wasn't
Fuck
the
you,
coolest
meatbag.
shit.
You just hear fucking Steve Bloom. Fuck you, meatbag.
Yeah. Which, let me tell you, it was very weird to hear Heat Blast swearing when I was a young boy. But,
I didn't think much of it because at the time I didn't put two and two together. I didn't realize there was a whole different guy behind these voices. I just remember hearing the same voice in a bunch of different stuff. Like, I'd go through like I'm gonna throw out an obscure game right now. Ratchet and Clank. Well, it's not obscure if you've played the games. It's obscure if you've never even heard of them. Ratchet and Clank: Tools of Destruction. I could randomly go through and I'd hear a voice just off, like an enemy or just a one-off character that I pass by, and I hear, that very deep, just Wolverine-esque voice. I'm like, I know that voice. Where the hell?
hmm
Or Nolan North, you'll sit there and play Uncharted, and then like 20 minutes later, you hear Nolan North's voice as a death scream for a different character, for like a one-off enemy.
yeah.
And you're like, did I just kill Nolan North as Nolan North?
Yes.
Yes, like that's what happens when you're a legend of your craft, and you're all over the place.
So, the other thing, other than our main characters, that
Yes.
Shinonuma introduced us to were the Wunderwaffe DG2, which in German literally translates to, like, Wonder Weapon, and
Yes.
DG2, which I'll get to in a second. And it brought the
I'm not
Hellhounds. Huh?
I'm not mistaken. DG, is that? I know it's German.
It stands for Die Glocke, but
Oh, I was gonna go Dundergun, which roughly translated to Thunder Gun, like a blunderbuss.
no, it's Die Glocke, which
Oh,
the next map, being Derice, was where
the
everything started connecting to real life Nazi shit.
Yes.
Because it's in
Like
the
they
heart
did a
of the
lot
motherland.
more. Yeah, they did a lot more research and threw up a lot more period accurate stuff. Like you're sitting there watching Inglorious Bastards by Quentin Tarantino.
Now, we get to Derice, and it's this decrepit Nazi facility where they did all of their testing. And not only do we get like real world counterparts to things, right? The teleporters in the map were based on the real life experiments of Die Glocke, which was a Nazi UFO that was said to travel through the four dimensions,
That
including
was
time.
real?
Yes, the Nazis actually tried to make it.
I mean, I knew they were into occult shit, but I didn't expect them to be into like
Oh,
alien
oh, brother, it gets
technology.
so much worse, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
real life Germans built these things called the Riese Project, which were these underground tunnels that were not only their experiment chambers for the occult, but they were also searching for an alien species known as the Vrilya, which
Australia.
they were claimed to be living in tunnels under Europe and Russia. And when they awoke, they would destroy humanity in order to take over the world. And they believed that the Aryans, right, were a send off of these aliens. Like they were a descendant.
That sounds absolutely insane, but I do not put it past Germany in the 40s.
They actually had a defunct scientist come out and say, like way, way before Call of Duty, that UFOs were powered by the secret element of 115, which we'll get into is very important in the storyline.
Oh yeah, like I'm not surprised that they throw that in there.
But there were real life Wunderwaffe. First of all, the STG-44, the Sturmgewehr, was arguably the first like Armalite rifle style automatic rifle. It was way advanced and ahead of its time. Like it was automatic through lead at far ranges compared to the usual submachine guns that everyone else was using. And that was their first Wunderwaffe. These jackwads also wanted to create the sun gun, where they tried to fly a giant mirror into space in order to harness the power of the sun to destroy their enemies.
That don't surprise me.
Now,
Like the whole time it's just like insanity.
yeah. So the 4 maps come out, and these 3 DLCs come out, and they're doing fan-fucking-tastic. And they're gonna make a 4th one, right?
Yeah.
But Modern Warfare 2 is about to release, and Activision tells them it's way too close to release. You don't get to do your 4th DLC. This DLC would eventually become Keynote or Toten in Black Ops 1. Keynote or Toten was only supposed to launch with 1 map, being 5, which was set in the Pentagon. But it also launched with Keynote or Toten, which is probably the most known zombies map.
Oh yeah.
And it was originally supposed to be a World at War DLC. But because Modern Warfare 2 came out, they said no.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Needless to say, the lifespan and development of zombies has been chaotic, but it pales in comparison to the absolute monstrosity of a story that they came up with. I'd argue it's better than like most of the books on the market. And it started because, like I said, 2 jackholes wasting company time built a horde mode and said, "Alright, now what's the story?" And they went deep. So,
Oh yeah. And I'm excited to go through all of this.
since the zombie storyline spans across 5.5 games, I'm gonna be,
Half.
yeah, Cold War, the most recent Black Ops game,
Oh yeah.
it kind of links into it, but
Not by much.
the storyline died in Black Ops 4. Like they ended it, and then
Yeah,
they
which
were like,
is
"All right, do more zombies," and they're like, "But we ended the storyline."
we ended the story. What the hell do you expect us to do? Just like keep making a game?
Yes, so they did, which they ended up like retconning things, and it just turned into a nightmare.
Yeah, and then there's like more characters that pop in, but they have bigger names as well. Like World War II, I remember David Tennant is in it now.
Yeah, World War II actually wasn't Treyarch, right? The Treyarch games were
Yeah,
the only
that
ones
was
that
World War II. That was
Sledgehammer.
yeah.
Which every other Call of Duty, Black Ops 2 onward, had some sort of zombies mode.
Oh
Activision
yeah.
was like, zombies is selling like hotcakes. Everyone needs to have it. Which is why we
Yeah.
got Exo Zombies and Zombies in Spaceland and fucking World War II zombies, but no Nazis
And
because it's too progressive.
right, the world's progressed on, and history pieces are no longer a thing. I do want to bring up real world parallels between two game companies. Um, and I don't have a whole lot of hate on either end. I do have some because there are some IPs that have gotten killed over the years that I wish I wish they would let have another sequel. Activision and EA. These are two parallels of each other in some ways. EA has killed more unique IPs in favor of sports games. Meanwhile, Activision has killed IPs for Call of Duty. The last unique Activision game that I've seen that was not a first-person shooter was in like 2004 when they helped publish the Shrek 2 video game.
Hmm. Yeah.
but but at least they're trying to it's not it's kind of the same game, but they try and add new stuff into it and still try to give it a different story. But EA just consistently is like, yeah, it's the same game, same thing you played a million times before, and here's just a handful of different people from this year's rosters. You know, and that's the biggest thing that drives me crazy is putting out the exact same thing a million times. because you know people will buy it. Eventually, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as I was saying, because the storyline spans across so many games, I'm not going to make this a 6 hour long podcast. And instead,
Okay.
I'm going to split it up. And when I talk about each of the Black Ops games after this, I'm just going to give more and more snippets of the storyline.
Yeah, just like give the snippets of the storyline that game gave.
Yeah. And I have to. World of Wars is going to be a little longer than the other ones because I have to give the prereqs to what comes in the game.
Oh yeah, I mean, when we get to Black Ops, we could still talk like kind of like how the story goes and how the development cycle went.
Yeah.
Like, because development's always different for all of these games. Because eventually I want us to Silent Hill because we're gonna be on that. We're already on the topic of survival horror
Yeah.
and horror-based games. Um, but when we get to that, I'll give all the details then.
Yeah. So,
Because that one will be fun.
so buckle up, because it's story time.
Oh boy.
It's like when Grandpa used to talk about hookers. So, in the beginning, incomprehensible beings inhabited all multiverses at once. This was commonly known as the Aether. They wielded a powerful creation, capable of doing many things. Now, they obviously created life and everything within all of the multiverses. Eventually, some of these beings found a darkness within the Aether and were corrupted to evil. Eventually, a war breaks out between good and evil. The corrupted create a device, a metallic stone black pyramid capable of ripping everything to shreds, as long as anyone is wielding it. The good guys end up kicking their ass in a war because they weren't able to power their device, as it required the souls of living in order to run. The good guys win, and they banish the evil to a place known as the Dark Aether, where the darkness came from. They sealed it away into its own twisted little pocket dimension. They hid the pyramid on the moon in one particular universe, because no one's ever gonna make it to the moon, right? Neither good nor evil can actually interfere directly with the mortal world, but they need their help, the help of the mortals, to defeat one another. Because all of the true essence of life comes from mortals that they cannot harness. Now, we jump forward in time to 1854 in a place in the United States called Paradise Point. A mother and her child, yeah, it's Paradise Point. So this kid and his mom, right? His name's Jebediah Brown. They moved to Purgatory Point in the Western Front. Eventually, he gets older and becomes a blacksmith. Now, their town mine.
The blacksmith.
He's right here. We're talking about him. Now, the mines in the town that are looking for gold instead find deposits of this strange glowing blue rock. And eventually, miners are around it for too long, and they end up becoming insane. They become feral, and their eyes glow yellow. One of these.
Oh, that explains a lot.
One of these feral citizens ends up attacking and killing the mother of Jebediah before one of the townsfolk can put a bullet through his head. They end up figuring that it's witchcraft and something ain't good coming from that mine. Now, because someone from that mine just killed his mother, Jebediah goes down to that mine to take a look at what's going on. And he stares into those blue rocks for about an hour, but he can't seem to find anything that would have caused it. So he goes home and goes to bed, only to have dreams from two mysterious beings. He refers to them as the angels in his brain. And they give him these dreams, these schematics, to build a machine, and they warn him of an upcoming war that's going to happen. Now the machine they give to him, he names it the Pack-a-Punch. It allows you to upgrade any weapon or item you see fit. You place it into the machine and it comes out in an upgraded state. and it becomes an absolute hit in the town. Everyone's throwing their handguns, their rifles into it. They're throwing chests in it. Everything you could think of gets thrown in this machine. And everyone pays him wealthily. He gets to have a great funeral for his mother from the money that's gathered. He goes to bed again, and again these two angels give him more dreams. They ask him to build an incomprehensible device known as the Agarthan device, an artifact so powerful it's capable of doing whatever the user wants at any time. And they ask for a soul-infused stone requiring the souls of 4 people, the blood of an ancient god that is found within the bottom of the ocean, and an iron casket built to hold gods. Now, obviously, Jeb tells them, he says, I can't find that stone. I don't have souls. And I don't know how I could get to the bottom of the ocean. I would surely die. But I am a blacksmith, and I can build you an iron casing. And so he builds it. And as he's building it, he's beginning to lose his mind more and more. The mine isn't too far off from his blacksmithing shop, so he starts going more and more insane. At one point, he even digs up his mother's corpse and puts it into the pack-a-punch machine. He doesn't know why, he just does. Which, instead of having something upgraded come out like usual, it creates a ghostly apparition that sets itself within the house and haunts it. So he's haunted by the ghost of his mother. He ends up forging this metal casing, and again has one final dream in which the angels tell him to put his creation into his machine. And he does so, and the town disappears without a trace.
Town disappears.
Now, we jump forward to a little bit before World War II, roughly between 1900 and 1938. These meteors are...
So somewhere between World War One and then the start, then the Warsaw invasion.
Yes. It's a little after World War I, but not quite World War II. And these meteors strike the Earth. They're carrying an element known as 115. The main meteors that we care about land in the United States near Pennsylvania and Nevada. They land in Tunguska, which was the Tunguska event. There's some that land in Japan, in Germany, and the Himalayan mountains. The scientists around the world take to the element, forming their investigative branches. The US creates the OSS and sets up Area 51, also known as Groom Lake, in order to do their experiments with it. Germany creates Group 935, who sets up the Darice facility to test on this element. And Japan creates Division 9, who sets up the Rising Sun facility, which we know as Shinonuma, in Japan, to research the rock. Group 935 is started by a one, Dr. Ludwig Maxis, co-organized by Dr. Edward Richthofen. Notable members of this group include Dr. Groff, Dr. Schuster, and Dr. Porter. 935 eventually becomes so large it becomes an international private science team to improve the human condition. The members cut ties with their families and their world governments and seek only to research element 115. They spend most of their time working on a matter transference device, a teleporter, in order to improve humanity, but they're largely unsuccessful. They initially start by teleporting corpses and other objects, but they disappear or are disintegrated. However, corpses nearby the teleporter end up reanimating and coming back to life. Now Maxis, the creator of Group 935, immediately becomes obsessed with this, while the rest of the group is very skeptical. Around this time, World War II busts its move, and Group 935 is ignored by the world powers because they've become independent of their governments. They're no longer seen as their countries, and thus are just innocent research scientists.
When you said World War II busted its move, I imagine like the generals getting together and like having it out on the disco floor, man.
Pretty much.
Isn't that like an Easter egg clip somewhere?
It's in one of the later maps, yeah, you can get
Wait,
the
it's
zombies to
actually a
dance.
thing. I didn't
Yeah.
know this.
No, like,
Like
not the generals, but
somewhere,
zombies will dance on a dance floor with a disco ball.
I could have swore that somebody has taken the models of not only like they're like the whole thing of five. Like they took JFK, Richard Nixon, Fidel Castro,
Oh, yeah.
and then made them all dance to like some random disco song from the '60s.
I think they have. But, so,
Uh,
World War II
so
breaks
dumb.
out, and any little bit of funding that the original German government was sending to Group 935 runs dry. Now, they run completely out of their stashes of Element 115. The meteor that hit Germany was quite small. And so, Maxis, the creator, decides to strike up a deal with the Reichstag and Hitler. In exchange for money and resources, they'll build weapons in order to ensure Germany's victory in World War II. Maxis reveals to Hitler that they're creating undead from corpses when they're exposed to the rocks too long, and it promises an undead army, which ends up becoming Maxis's one goal. Now, the rest of Group 935 never finds out about this, except for Richthofen, as Maxis tells him when he asks where all the funding is coming from. He worries of a defunct group happening because of the scientists in Group 935. They're not just all from Germany. There's some from Russia, there's some from the United States. It's worldwide. Just the brilliant scientists trying to better the human condition. So it stays a secret. Now, Richthofen, along with Dr. Schuster, his right-hand man in the teleportation project, continue to work on the teleportation. They end up downscaling their project and attempt to teleport a walnut. And they successfully teleport said walnut 3 feet. And Maxis laughs at them, saying that their walnut teleporting business is going to be great. Now get your head back in the game and help us serve the Third Reich. Richthofen gets pretty freaking pissed. Right. Also, around this time, Maxis starts bringing his daughter, Samantha, to Derice. It's implied that her mother died during childbirth, but it's any time in the young ages of her. So she starts staying in a room at the Derice facility, which doesn't seem like a very good idea. But he doesn't want to neglect his daughter, but cannot give up on his work, so she begins to live with him at the facility. And Richthofen hates her, because not only is Maxis pissing him off, but she's getting in the way, she's an annoying little bastard. Richthofen's not having any of it. The US catches wind of 935 defuncting to the Nazis, and they hear about this undead army project, because of course the US hears about it. So they send in 2 spies to join Group 935, a one Peter McCain and a one Harvey Yena. Richthofen successfully teleports his walnut and gets blown off, right? So he, along with Schuster and the other 2 scientists, Groff and Porter, create a de facto group behind Maxis's back to work on the teleporters. But Richthofen develops the Wunderwaffe DG2, which is a gun that shoots chain lightning, in order to cover for them that they're working on a weapons project still. It is important to remember that even though Richthofen defuncted his government, he was originally in World War I-ish era, a lead on, like, interrogations. That's the word for it. He was an interrogator, and he was known as the Butcher. He was pretty cruel of a dude, but he eventually rounded himself around and became devoted to science. He put all of his negative energy towards science. So when you get told, don't put it towards science, the de facto group happens. Now, when he makes the WAF DG2, Maxis promises him that they will mass produce the WAF DG2, and Richthofen is pleased. They create weapons at Duriz, and the Reichstag gives 935 more funding, as well as control over a Siberian base that Hitler creates after hearing about the Tunguska event, thinking that the meteor probably holds more 115. And it does. They also give them control over the Rising Sun facility in Japan, which wasn't theirs, but the Nazis basically told Japan, give us your research or we will take you out. I'm getting Discord notifications. That's annoying as hell.
That's me. I'm sorry.
That's
All
okay.
I saw was uploaded huh.png.
Yeah.
Because now Google's allowing podcasts, so
Hey, maybe we'll get plugged over there. Probably not though.
Also, just so we know, I have accidentally moved our Twitter into German Twitter, and I am so sorry.
you
Go nice. Wait, our third episode's about Nazis, and you put us in the German Twitter.
Well,
Did you
okay, here's the thing. I tweet out little hints, and I tweet it out in German.
so
Oh
now
no.
oh no.
So
What is
come
German
baby.
for we do not condone anything that has happened from the 40s backwards?
That is most definitely not what it says, but what it does say, I will inform us. And once I pull up the translation again, because I'm a child,
Oh no.
make sure you drink your nog.
Nice.
That's it. That's
That's it.
what it says. Yeah, in German.
Get that sweet, sweet nog. Reach for
Oh,
me, Jugger Girl. Rah. So,
rah.
as they create their more weapons, they create the ray gun, the Wunderwaffe DG2, the Thunder gun, the Scavenger sniper rifle, which shoots explosives. Porter creates a Mark II and Mark III version of the ray gun, as well as they're just referred to as the Zap guns because the plans are stolen by the Americans.
Zap.
Now, when Hitler gives them control of the Japanese facility and the Siberian base, the German forces capture 2 soldiers, one from each camp, a Russian military general named Nikolai Belinsky, and a highly honored soldier from the Japanese facility named Takeo Masaki. They're captured and sent back to Richthofen. Now, he's continuing to work on teleportation, and despite Maxis's complaints, he rushes them because that's not what they're supposed to be working on. So Richthofen gets fed up and offers himself to be sent through the teleporters. No one has survived teleportation yet, but he's so sure he has it that he offers to put himself through. And the teleport does not go as planned. Rather than teleporting him to the pad, the teleporter sends him to an air-filled pocket on our moon. And once Richthofen lights his lighter in an air-filled pocket on the moon, I stress that, he sees a mysterious black pyramid that I've probably talked about already. And he touches it, and he gets shocked by it. And he begins hearing whispers throughout the cavern, and he thinks nothing of it. He thinks that Dr. Schuster's playing a prank on him, and that this is still within the facility, before he teleports again. The way the teleporters work is they reatomize you and deatomize you in locations until you are at the correct location. So even though you may not be at a teleporter, if you have teleported, you can teleport again, unless you return back to the pad. So naturally, since he did not return to the pad, he continues to teleport, and ends up in the Himalayan mountains. Now, this is what is known as Shangri-La, the highly thought of rare place in the Himalayan mountains thought to not exist. And he meets the locals, and they're savages, but they worship him as a god because of his technological advancements after he shoots one of them dead with a handgun. Now, I don't know about you, but if some dude just showed up and blasted the
It
motherfucker,
just sounds like fear.
yes, they worshipped him out of fear. And in return, he showed them water power and hydroelectricity and had them mine for element 115. He noticed it in the area. He also noticed a very large meteorite sitting atop one of the towers, which they built and inscribed Dr. Edward Richthofen onto. This will become important in a later episode. But eventually, he teleports back to Doris, and months later, all of the Himalayan inhabitants die due to exposure of 115.
I'm not gonna lie, when you popped up with that'll be important later. Um, all I could think of, and I fucking don't even know if I'm still gonna get the quote right, but it was like, we're gonna put that in our mysteries, like in our fucking back pocket for later or something. It was
Yeah,
from Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, is what my brain was trying to
that's a
quote.
special tool that we'll use later. Now, he returns to Doris, and he's already starting to lose his sanity from touching that pyramid. And he makes Dr. Schuster absolutely shit his pants. He's been gone for weeks, and he's about to decommission the teleporter, when suddenly Richthofen reappears. And even though Schuster tries to ask him questions, he says there's no time, get in the teleporter, and they teleport to the moon. And he can't believe his eyes. Schuster never touches the pyramid. But they go to the moon. They return back, this time in one piece, and grab Dr. Groff. And also go there, which they begin to teleport Nazi supplies to the moon, creating what they now know as Griffin Station. So the Nazis had a moon base. World War
Nazis
II.
had a moon base.
They then, rather than leaving their teleporter linked to the moon base in the Doris facility, because remind you, all of this is happening behind Dr. Maxis's back. He doesn't know about any of this. They find an abandoned castle in the Alps, known as Der Eisendrache, which is the Iron Dragon, and they place their teleporter to the moon in that castle. This way, they don't give away their secrets. Now, while they're there, they find a spy from the Mexican government who was working with the American government, evidently. His name is Pablo, and they capture him.
His name was Pablo.
His name was Pablo.
I
Pablo
know someone
Marinez?
IRL whose name is Pablo.
Me too. I went to school with one.
Pablo was not a very good one.
No. But Richthofen ends up deciphering the language on this black pyramid and realizes what it does. And he has a plan to use it. So he writes down his plans and the insane thoughts that come through his brain in a journal. They return back to Doris to continue the charade that nothing has happened and they're still working on producing weapons. When Richthofen is sent by Maxis to the Siberian outpost in Tunguska, and he is ordered to take his daughter Samantha with him, while Maxis ends up going to the asylum facility. Now, the asylum was set up to create and condition zombies, right? Doris was made to be technologically advanced and to do teleportation. So they set up the asylum that they were given by the Reichstag to be a zombie testing grounds. So Richthofen takes his daughter Samantha to the Siberian outpost, along with the 3 captured soldiers, the Russian, the Japanese, and the Mexican. And he's going to experiment on live subjects with element 115. Now, they didn't ever want to do this with their own, so they captured soldiers to do it. Now, Richthofen is continually becoming mad. It's getting worse and worse by the day. Richthofen, he's trying to crack the human condition in order to make them completely obedient to commands. So that way they can employ the same strategies on the undead, making them able to control the undead army. Because at this point, the zombies are feral and they cannot be controlled. They do what they please. Now, Richthofen ends up experimenting on the three, and experiments don't go well. The Japanese soldier and the Russian do not react right away, although the Russian seems to piss everywhere anytime he's not drinking vodka, so that's not great. However, Richthofen thinks that the human condition might be hidden in the spleen, in which he tries on the Mexican Pablo, in which Pablo is seemingly killed because his spleen is on the floor and he's laying face down.
So essentially, our funny Russian is basically a COD variant of the postal dude.
Yeah, pretty much. Except much worse off in the mind.
I beg to differ.
He lost his wife in the Battle of Stalingrad, which was a bombing done by the Germans, and
yes,
he ended up
I do know about that.
yeah, he ended up becoming so reliant on vodka and so drunk that he killed several commanders higher than him in the chain of Russian command till he was a general, and had stories of how he killed fourth wife with his bare hands, and he killed seventh wife with just his smell. But truthfully, he only ever had his one wife, and the loss of her broke him to where he was an incomprehensible, murderous idiot.
Well, yeah, the postal dude is just that from Postal 2 onward, just as a character. Like, yes,
Yeah.
you as a player can choose how he goes about things, but after that, it's like if you look at the actual like if you look at Apocalypse Weekend,
Mm.
there you don't get to choose like do you get to fight your way out? No, you have to fight your way out or you will die.
Yeah. Now,
Like at the end of Postal 2 before Apocalypse Weekend, you hear a gunshot, but you think it's either his wife shooting him, or that's at least what I thought, or I thought of but I thought like his wife shot him. No, it's him shooting him.
fair enough.
The postal dude tried to shoot himself to quit the bitch from nagging,
Yeah.
and I thought it was funny.
So, Richthofen at this base also begins to experiment on Maxis's daughter Samantha because he hates her. He ends up putting her through some of the similar 115 exposure experiments that he did the rest of the fully adult grown men, and warns her that if she ever says anything, he will kill them all. He's going absolutely insane.
Yeah,
So,
that sounds like.
Maxis continues his experiments in the asylum, but the zombies get out of control. Peter McCain, one of the spies from America, ends up getting found out that he's a spy at the same time in Verrückt. He's overheard radioing it back to America through Morse code. Now, they try to capture him and detain him at Verrückt, where he was stationed. However, the zombie outbreak ends up becoming terrible, and they can't control it, so they have to abandon the facility. Around this time, a German flat cannon shoots down an American plane over an airfield, leading to the 4 survivors holding up in that airfield base against the undead. These are the events of Nocturne and Toten. These 4 end up surviving the night and radioing back to the United States that there's zombies confirmed in Germany. They end up getting back home, but they also radio out to Peter that he needs to rendezvous back at the Rising Sun facility for an evac, which is the Japanese place.
Yeah.
This was radioed from the soldiers to Peter McCain, whereas the actual OSS send a brigade of 4 Marines, being Smokey, John Banana, Paxton Ridge, and Tank Dempsey, to Verrückt in order to try and rescue Peter, but he's gone by the time they get there. And they find that there is a severed arm hanging off of the power machine in the facility that was turned off in order to contain the horde to the building, since all of the doors are powered. This was Peter McCain's arm. He ended up having to sever his arm due to being bit by a zombie, which he survives because he removed his limb. So he escapes and rendezvous back at Shinonuma, which we find him later hanging from the ceiling of the spawn room, hung by his parachute. We don't know if he did it by accident, or there's theories that Richthofen did it when he first got to Shinonuma. We'll get there later. Two of the 4 Marines end up getting overrun and killed. However, Paxton ends up living and escaping with the other 4 Marines at the airbase, and Dempsey ends up getting captured by Group 935. Now, since Richthofen just accidentally killed Pablo, they hand over Dempsey. And at first, Dempsey is unruly. The second they let him go to put him in a cell, he kicks 3 guards' asses and punches Richthofen in the face. He then gets hit with an electric stick several times until he passes out. Hit him with the stick again! Now, during this time... Huh?
That whole thing explains Richthofen's hatred for Dempsey.
Yes, it does. So during this time, all these experiments are going on. Hitler is expanding his empire, and he sends crews into Africa, specifically Angola. And this crew stumbles upon an old American Western town buried under the ground. Now, amongst this rubble, parts and pieces of the Pack-a-Punch machine and its schematics are found and returned to Doris, alongside the schematic drawn out for the Agarthan device. Dr. Porter is tasked with assembling the Pack-a-Punch machine, while Richthofen is given the blueprints for the Agarthan device, believing it could help control the zombies. Richthofen has other plans, obviously. They then use the Pack-a-Punch to upgrade their Wunderwaffe, once it is put back together, and it is sealed up within the Doris facility.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once Dempsey is experimented on, Samantha is sent back to the facility, but Richthofen continues to experiment on the 3 main characters, Nikolai, Takeo, and Dempsey, and they end up being reverted to very stereotypical selves. Nikolai needs vodka to function, Takeo becomes silent but just speaks proverbs, and Tank becomes very angry and very prideful. He is the standard U.S. Marine. And seeing as how they're resisting the effects of Element 115, they're not becoming zombies. They got the Rasputin treatment where they were slowly induced to it over time, instead of all at once, so their body built up immunity. This is why the 4 characters end up able to wield weapons of 115. Now, seeing as how they weren't turning into zombies, and he wasn't making any progress with that, instead he ended up getting a hold of that blueprint and starting to make the Soul Stone, which he already had somewhere was the iron casing built, and they didn't know where the blood of an ancient apothecant was, but Richthofen thought he could create a stone with 4 souls, which was refined element 115. He then used it to take in parts of the souls of the 3 experiments, as well as himself, because there was no one else. And unknowingly, he just bound the 4 together throughout all of the multiverses. They're fated to find each other. Now, Yuri, the other American spy, sees Peter get exposed, and in order to cover his own ass, he finds what Richthofen is doing and exposes it to Maxis Yuri does not know about the moon facility or anything like that, but he does see that Richthofen is trying to build the Agarthan device for his own uses. So Maxis ends up confronting Richthofen, and he's forced to put the 3 subjects on ice in frozen stasis. They cancel the mass production of the Wunderwaffe, and the Agarthan device's blueprints and the Soul Stone, as well as Richthofen's journal, are all taken to the Rising Sun facility. And Maxis begins to crap his pants when people are told that they were unable to control and contain the Verrückt base, and that there were zombies just roaming the countryside of Germany. While Sam was gone with Richthofen to the Siberian outpost, Maxis feels like he's neglecting his daughter. He's her only parent, and he's not with her. So one of the dogs that they used to experiment on, he gives to her, which she names Fluffy. Now this dog was pregnant and was going to have puppies. And Max is just like, I'm a good father now, not knowing the horrors that his daughter has endured because he handed her over to Richthofen. The Reichstag see that they're unable to control the zombies as of the outbreak in Verrückt. So they hand over an abandoned theater in Berlin that they use in hopes to condition zombies by visual stimuli. The imagery calms down zombies and almost brainwashes them, but they never end up fully successful. A couple of scientists also use this facility to create lunar landers behind Maxis's back to help with Richthofen's goals. His lab assistant, that also ends up becoming his girlfriend, gets bitten, and he ends up transferring her brain into a computer named Sophia. This will also become important. Now, plot twist, Richthofen has secretly been a spy for the Illuminati this entire time. And this is mildly important, because all of these Illuminati signs like pop up in the Derice facility that say, "It is time, kill Maxis." While on the moon, Dr. Groff and Dr. Schuster are trying to figure out how the pyramid works when they shoot and kill a rat near the pyramid, and it floats a blue soul over to one of the vials next to it. The pyramid needs souls. So Richthofen orders them to send prisoners of war and soldiers, wounded soldiers, civilians, whoever they can get their hands on, to the moon to be slaughtered to charge this pyramid. He then is told by the Illuminati to set the plan in motion. During a routine teleporter test, because Richthofen convinced Maxis to give him another shot, they take Fluffy, that they did not realize was the dog given to Samantha, and they put it in the teleporter, and it disappears. It doesn't disintegrate or turn into a zombie. It disappears. They then run a second experiment with a corpse, but the corpse is instead replaced with a zombified dog. Samantha runs in looking for Fluffy, and runs into the teleporter thinking that that dog is still Fluffy. Maxis runs in after her to stop her, and Richthofen slams the teleporter door shut on them, leaving them in the teleporter with the dog. He hits the teleporter and teleports all three of them. He was hoping that it would kill them, but due to their exposure gradually of 115, they survive the teleport. Maxis ends up in a cramped, dark tunnel somewhere. They don't know at the time. And Samantha accidentally gets teleported to the moon. Dr. Schuster and Dr. Groff try to grab her because, holy shit, there's a child on the moon, what the fuck? And she accidentally runs into the fully charged pyramid, which, when fully charged, opens. And she runs into it and closes around her. We don't know where Fluffy went, but Richthofen warns them while they're trying to get her out of the pyramid that there might be a rabid dog on the loose. So they use technology created at the Derice facility to locate Maxis and teleport him to the moon in order to hopefully coax Samantha out of the MPD, which is the Black Pyramid that they dubbed the MPD device. They eventually get him to the moon, and he agrees to try and lure her out. However, when he goes up to talk to her in the pyramid, rather than coaxing her out, he just simply says, "I need you to make me a promise. Kill every last member of Group 935. And then he shoots himself in the head. Now, the pyramid that she is in is a gateway to the darkness. The original intent of the evil ones in the beginning was to open the device and spread darkness to everywhere. So Samantha becomes corrupted in her rage. Emotions fuel the darkness. And so in her rage and fear, she ends up becoming corrupted. And the pyramid grants her wish to kill everybody. And it does that by allowing her control over the undead, because they are linked to element 115, which comes from the Apothecan's realm. So this means bad shit. Outbreak happens. Richtofen gets radioed this shit and immediately enacts his plan. He wakes up the 3 subjects out of ice, and they head to the Rising Sun facility to go find his journal, which this is Shinonuma. They go looking for his journal because his journal details his plans of how to enter the pyramid himself. But now, instead, he needs to find a way to take control himself. The others don't know this. They are just following his orders because we need to survive. There is a zombie outbreak. While they go to Shinonuma, Dr. Groff kills himself on the moon because they've unleashed hell. And Dr. Schuster flees to Doris and meets up with Dr. Porter. Now, Schuster ends up running from the facility in a transport, while Dr. Porter ends up staying behind to turn on the alarm systems for the Doris facility to warn other scientists, and ends up hanging himself before the zombies can break into the room he's in. The rest of the zombies flood the facility, and the rest of the doctors either flee or are killed. Dr. Yuna and Dr. Schuster end up leaving. When the 4 get to Shinonuma, obviously it's also overrun by zombies. Sam has sent zombies to anyone dealing with Group 9 through 5, which is why no matter where the crew goes, zombie outbreaks occur. They get the Richtoven's diary, and they return to Doris, and they expect to use Doris as their base of operation, but it's also overrun. And Richtoven's trying to frantically read his diary to figure out what to do, while the other 3 defend him. They back themselves into a teleporter, and Dempsey fires the Wunderwaffe DG2, which shoots electricity. This overloads the teleporter, and the 4 disappear, unable to be found anywhere on Earth by either Group 935 or the OSS. They disappear from reality itself. Shortly after this, World War II ends, and most of the undead remain dormant and purely instinctual. They're no longer being controlled, which allows the world's forces to kill them. And that's where the storyline of World of War ends.
That's quite a bit of story already.
Yeah.
Okay. So, essentially, we have the perfect World War II bingo card ever.
Essentially.
Because you have Nazis, you have the undead, you have occult shit, you have crazy science fiction. Basically, if you look at Wolfenstein and what it tried to do, or what it did, like Wolfenstein 3D specifically, World at War took that idea and ran with it more than Wolfenstein did, at least in the recent years.
But the craziest part is we were a meteorite away from these things probably being real, because everything else was, it's mostly fiction, but there's a lot of real shit in there.
Oh yeah, Wolfenstein did the same thing for a minute. Like it just had the a bit of realism mixed with insane fiction, and just went from there. Because up until what was it? Then Wolfenstein: The New Order, occult shit ran wild in Wolfenstein.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that you had Hitler coming back from the dead and all this other shit, or like zombie army.
Yeah, that was the old blood, right? There was an entire Wolfenstein game with zombies.
Yeah, there was a whole Wolfenstein game with mutants and zombies, but then the guys who made Sniper Elite Rebellion
Hmm.
made Zombie Army. They made like 4 games out of that, which is it's similar to like how Call of Duty Nazi Zombies is. Like it's still Nazi zombies and there's still like occult and science fiction shit in there.
Hmm.
All of it regarding zombies. But Call of Duty, when they did it, it was just this one-off thing,
Hmm.
wasn't it?
Yeah, at the
And then it
time.
just at the time, yeah, it was just this one-off thing. Like, okay, we're just gonna throw a game mode in, lock it behind hard mode on campaign. You have to beat it. Was it just a straight beat the game first, or was it like beat the game in under X amount of hours with X amount of kills and
You
X
just
amount of deaths?
you just had to beat the campaign every mission on the hardest difficulty, which I think actually was veteran, because I think it went normal, hard, veteran.
Which was not an easy task on its
Oh no,
own at the time,
there
because
was
World at War was brutal.
there was a mission in particular where you're trying to find like a sniper up in the windows of
Mm-hmm.
a Russian hotel, and
Uh-huh.
in veteran mode you got one hit killed by him. So it was like you hope you guess right. Like it took people hours. People don't speed run the campaign because of that mission.
Yeah, I have not seen anything about a speedrun community for that game. I've seen speedruns for Black Ops. I've seen speedruns for Modern Warfare. I've seen them for everything under the sun except World at War.
Let me tell you though, zombies became a speedrunning classic.
Oh yeah, because of all the Easter eggs and stuff.
Yep, plus high rounds, which eventually, right, because of hardware limitations, you could
Uh-huh.
only play zombies for a maximum of 72 hours.
Yeah,
Or,
in one go.
yes, or after X number of explosions happened, or after a number of particles were spawned. So,
Yeah.
or the mystery box was spun X number of times. So it then
Yeah.
became like a RNG mixed with like planning to get the highest round possible, and it was a speed run because you had to do it in under 72 hours of gameplay.
Oh yeah. And what was the highest number reached?
21,492 on Numa.
Fuck
I
off.
think. Let me go look it up because I think I might have added a number.
That is absolutely insanity.
Well, okay. Uh, it is currently 11,482. So what the problem was, right? In Nocturne and Verrucht, no one thought anyone would get past round 20. So after round 20, there are no more than 24 zombies per round. Which in those two maps is fine, because you have just regular guns. The damage falls off.
Oh yeah.
And sure, on Verrucht you have traps, but the map is so tight quarters and ass that surviving on it's the hardest zombies map to date. World at War Verrucht is still the hardest map they've ever made. And I stand by that. But when Numa came out, they introduced the Wunderwaffe, and the Wunderwaffe had infinite damage. You didn't have very much ammo in it. You had 18 shots, but it could kill 10 zombies per shot. Combined with there was the trap known as the Flogger, which was this big wooden spinning log with spikes on it that would kill zombies indefinitely. And there were only 24 zombies around, so you could just pound rounds fucking quickly. And every 255 rounds, the zombie's health would be reset back to 1. So you'd have insta-kill rounds. And so the game just took off. Now, Darius obviously fixed this, and the rounds had more than 24 zombies. But Numa was like the perfect storm of, we're going to get as far as we can. And then 3 DLCs later, there was a map that it was physically impossible to get to round 100 because of hardware limitations. So it got
Yeah.
very polarizing very quickly.
I am very excited to get into like the bigger amounts of stuff.
Yeah. Which obviously some of the things that I discussed in the beginning, a lot of this was discovered, it's employed later on in the story, but these are the events that happened during World War One. Or World at War, rather.
Yeah.
They're the events that took place during the quote unquote storyline of the World of War maps, even if the information wasn't gathered in World of War. So that was the first segment of story time. Does anyone have any questions?
Generally, just how the Nazis decided to go through all this shit.
Hitler was a crazy man, and he
Oh yeah,
believed a lot of that shit.
oh, I know he did. That's why like you'll see stuff very rarely. I want to say rarely, but I don't want to say like stupid rarely. Like people way back when believed a lot of crazy shit. Like I remember hearing so much about the occult being a reason behind everything. Like it was a shit show.
Yeah, and trust me, it gets wilder when we get to Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2, because then the Pentagon and everything happens in modern Cold War era times, and we blow up the Earth, and then we blow up the moon, and then we blow up the Earth again. Uh,
I'm going to blow up the moon.
and then there's three other timelines, and and
I can only imagine.
loops like it's Dead by Daylight.
Loops like Dead by Daylight.
But that's for
Oh
future
my god.
installments. Because next episode we have Hun, what are you doing next episode?
She'll be right back. We can
Oh,
keep talking.
poop. Poop poop kachoo.
Um, I don't know about the next episode, but I do think I know exactly what's going to be happening the episode after that.
Oh, what might that be?
I think next we're going to be talking about, next time for me at least, we will talk about how technical design has improved by looking at one of my all-time favorite first-person shooters from the 90s. And it's not Doom. I'm saving Doom for a while. We're going to talk about Blood.
Hmm.
Yes. Um let me just put it this way. If you thought World at War was hard, this one makes that look like a friggin' cakewalk. Like it's not easy.
Yeah. Welcome back, Hun. Maybe she's not back yet.
I'm gonna scream, hello, I'm
Hello.
here.
What you doing next week, my hun?
Animal Crossing.
Yeah. Complete
Yay.
180. Let's go.
Yeah, we actually get
Let's
to do something
fucking
that's like
go.
super wholesome for once.
Super wholesome,
You
and we probably
fucking
won't have to
think
have a
until you
content warning.
realize. Hold on. You think until you realize Tom Nook is the reason that the fucking housing economy crashed in 2008. We just
Oh,
know
shit.
yet.
Hold up, what?
So like, okay, so like, sneaky peeky into next week's episode, right?
Sneaky pinky, what?
Um,
Hanky panky.
no, Tom Nook, like, so the whole basis of Animal Crossing when it starts is like,
Extortion.
Yes.
yes, it's actually a huge scam. Fun fact, because you are sold on this idea of, oh, you're going to like a tropical getaway, a deserted island, paradise. Here's the fucking kicker. No, you're there so Tom Nook can use you and extort you for your money and make you pay for a house, but use your own resources to build it. And then build everybody else's house on top of every other building that is in the town or the village.
That
Yeah.
sounds like cheeks. And also the American housing economy.
Sounds like a
Yeah.
fucking shit show.
He is the reason for the economic fall in Inflation. Oh, I can't speak.
Inflation,
Thank you.
recession.
Congression,
We
viewer
play it against
discretion.
Tom, Tom Robinson. What the fuck, Tom Nook?
But
Fuck off, Tom Robinson.
we want to thank y'all. What?
Is that can you all tell I'm tired?
Yes. That being said, we want to thank you guys for tuning in this week. Someone was supposed to pick up the ball there.
There is a whole outro we have that we don't have nailed down for any of us.
Whoop, whoop.
No, we're gonna pick it up one of these weeks and actually get it figured out.
It
But
is
until
something
we
along
get
the
that
lines
far,
of level up your knowledge.
until we
Show's
get that
over. No.
far, until we get that far, thank you all for joining this week on Level Up Your Knowledge, and we will see you next time. Bye
Alright,
bye.
Good night,
signing
everybody.
off.
We're just gonna steal Markiplier's.